All right, I think so. Can you hear me? Do you know if you can hear me? Good morning, everyone. To start, we will recite our 3 refuges, followed by the Heart Sutra. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust and to practice wholeheartedly so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but Prajna Paramita. Therefore, the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in Prajna Paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the Prajna Paramita is the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the Prajna Paramita. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Good morning, everyone. My name is Z, although many of you know me as Igye Su. I moved to Grand Rapids about 8 years ago, and It took a pandemic in order for me to understand that I needed a serious practice as well as a community to practice with. The Dharma Council interns have been tasked with sharing how we got to this point in Buddhism. And the following sequence of events, the introduction and acclimation to other beings, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, the felt experiences, and subsequent thoughts have all helped create the idea of who I think I am and how I got here. I'm going to begin with the story of my childhood. When I was about 5 years old, my grandmother came to visit us in Northern California when my parents went back for a wedding in Ireland. And one night, 5-year-old Z crawled up on the arm of the couch, and I put my hands on my hips and I announced to the world that I am in charge of the universe. And my granny, she was a Montessori kindergarten teacher here in Grand Rapids for a long time. And she laughed and she looked at me and she said, "Don't you mean you are queen of the universe?" And I thought to myself, what does queen have to do with anything? And I looked her dead in the eye and I said, "No, Granny, I am in charge of the universe." Kids say the darndest things, don't they? You know, as we grow, we question this belief that we have control in the things in our lives, mostly of who we are and what we become. The choices that we make help form the identities that we come to know and believe in. And for a long time there, I was fairly certain that I was in charge of the universe, at least until I wasn't. I was raised by a Catholic father and a pagan mother. Yes, you heard that right. Odd combination, I know. But I grew up going to Sunday Mass and lighting the vigil candle for my Nana while my mom practiced Wicca. And, books on spirituality lined our shelves, everything from the Bible to Silver Raven Wolf's How to Ride a Broomstick. I knew how to recite the Our Father, I still do, by heart. But by the age of 10, I also knew how to cast spells. I was really grateful to have had this eclectic spiritual upbringing, particularly because I was never told that one way was right and the other wrong. Now, my parents got divorced when I was about 8 years old, and the thing about being Catholic is that you are often reminded that marriage is the example of God's love and compassion. It's really difficult to see that when your parents are screaming at each other while you hide away, quiet as a mouse, hoping that aggression doesn't turn on you. The night that they separated is one of my clearest and some might say most traumatic childhood memories. And it's in Thich Nhat Hanh's No Mud, No Lotus that he writes, "If you haven't gone through a war, you don't know the value of peace." War comes in many forms and creates many innocent casualties. And when you are that close to destruction, it's really difficult to understand the value of peace. Most of the time, that war is still raging inside of you. After my parents separated, I turned to being in nature as a place of comfort. And I lived at the base of Mount Diablo in the California Diablo Mountain Range. And I could see the mountains from my front yard. Walk out front yard, there they are. And California weather also permits us to have really lovely clear skies most of the time. And so every night I would run out into my backyard yard on our deck, and I would crawl up on the railing of the deck, and I'd lean up against our pergola, and on tiptoe, I would try to look over the fence to catch the last rays of the day's sunlight. Something that always amazed me about that was that every night, somehow the sunset seemed to become more beautiful than the evening before. And as the time between my parents' divorce grew, it became easier to see the beauty in things. Having that peace and calm in the house really helped bring us back to this place of knowing that love is there. Now, moving along, my senior year of high school, my mom decided to sell our Northern California home and move to Michigan, back to Michigan, where she's from. And I could not bear the thought of moving halfway across the country to celebrate my senior year of high school with complete strangers. I couldn't come to separate myself from my family of mountains and foothills that I had come to know so well. So I decided to stay in California and finish my senior year of high school there. And, the divorce that my parents had left me feeling somewhat abandoned. And in a way, it was happening to me again. And for me, I didn't want to abandon everything I knew and loved. We'll come back to that later. So shortly after she left, I met this Bulgarian guy, and we dated for about 5 years. And in the last year of our relationship, I had been, spirituality had kind of been bouncing around in my brain a little bit more. I had been listening to some of Alan Watts' talks, and I had been reading an original 1973's copy of Ram Dass's Be Here Now that my Uncle David had purchased for my mom when she was 16 years old. And I also would go out to Berkeley and spend time meditating with the Self-Realization Fellowship group there. And in the summer of 2013, I wanted to go to Yosemite. I had spent a lot of time in the Sierra Nevadas. My dad lived out in Carson City, and it's about a 4 to 5 hour drive from the Bay Area to there. So I got to spend a lot of time exploring the Tahoe area and all of that beautiful mountain range. But I'd never really gone any further south into the Yosemite Valley. So I booked us a camping trip up in Tuolumne, and myself, my boyfriend at the time, and a couple of our friends came with us. And one of the days we decided to go out to the White Wolf hiking area. And we had decided that we would all split up by ourselves and have this opportunity to commune with nature. So we split up, and I march as fast as I can away from my ex, praying to a God that I didn't believe in, that he wasn't following me. And I marched for an hour straight. And at one point, I finally looked up and had the wind knocked out of me. And there, nestled on the horizon, was the back of Half Dome. I think it was that moment I realized that I had lost my way in life. I was working a dead-end job at a coffee shop. I was with somebody that I wasn't in love with anymore. A lot of my friends had kind of moved on to unwholesome lifestyles that really wasn't for me. And my Irish dance teaching degree was wasted away. You know, when I was 5, I had said I was in charge of the universe. And at this point in time, I felt anything but. And I lost it there on the side of the mountain, surrounded by all of this beautiful, beautiful nature that I couldn't even enjoy. Now, this is the part that's going to sound a little crazy. It was that moment that the mountain started speaking to me. And she said that I needed to move to Michigan. And immediately my mind was flooded with doubts of failure and fear of losing everything that I came to love and know in California. This fear of abandonment, abandoning everything, giving up almost. But she assured me that I had to go. I needed to go to Michigan and start my life there, and that is where things will take place for me. It was about then my friend Jordan, my best friend at the time, found me, and I wiped away my tears, trying not to worry him. And we walked back to the car together. The next day, we drove back home, and that evening, I broke up with my Bulgarian boyfriend. And I planned my move for 6 weeks later with 2 cats, a leopard gecko, and a rose bush to Michigan. 3 weeks after that, I had the opportunity to attend a very well-known music festival called Burning Man. And for those of you who don't know what Burning Man is, it is a community that is built out of nothing, and it is a gifting community that is completely self-reliant. And here I was, my whole life was upside down. I was about to go and experience this otherworldly event with a bunch of complete strangers. The only person that I actually knew was my friend Jordan. And I felt so anxious about everything that was going on. And I kept thinking to myself, am I crazy? Should I be doing this? What if I fail? What if things don't happen the way that they're supposed to? And so I had this overtones of anxiety going into this event, just wondering about the unknown. And as we're wandering around the first day, my best friend says to me, and this is pretty familiar advice in Buddhism, that I needed to experience the festival for myself. Need to experience it for myself. And so those first 4 days were really hard. I was clinging. I was really clinging to a lot of the things that were going on in my life. I was so worried, but here I was in this opportunity to really enjoy and fall into this otherworldly and honestly quite beautiful interaction with other people. And by the 4th day, my anxiety was so high, and I couldn't enjoy anything anymore. So that night, I told my friends I was going to stay in because I was just tired. I didn't want to worry them, and closed myself up in my tent and let everything go. And I for hours, it felt like just was writhing in pain and suffering of the unknown. And I kept reliving and just kind of trying so hard to keep trying to think my way out of it and control this experience. And what I realized is that I was trying so hard to cling to an idea of myself that no longer existed. The next morning, I got up early to watch the sunrise, and everything felt at peace. I had the opportunity to wake up to this state of being, this state of presence, and recognizing that while I may not be in control, I still am in charge of my universe. Realizing that this is all we have, this moment. I only had that time to really enjoy and appreciate all the people that I met, all the experiences that I had. And if I was so wrapped up in everything that hasn't even happened yet, how could I give myself the opportunity to really experience what I had been given? I found this deep feeling of gratitude for my suffering that morning, this deep appreciation for my past. And the funny thing is that I would not have been able to have witnessed this peace, something that has always been there, if I hadn't stopped being fixated on this side of the coin of suffering. I ended up going to, or living out the rest of the festival in this state of presence. And it was something I am incredibly grateful I got to experience. And I remember coming back to what at that point felt more like the real world. And it felt quite alien. I remember walking into a grocery store for the first time, and ads were in my face, and it was people consuming. And you come from this society in the desert where people are constantly giving to you. They are giving you their help. They are giving you their love. They are giving you their whole person. They are sharing this experience with you. And to come back to this kind of materialistic and consumerist society really put those two things in a very, very contrast point of view. But as I was getting ready to, those weeks, getting ready, I came back from Burning Man, getting ready to leave to Michigan. My ex called me and was trying to convince me to stay in California with him. And I said to him, as far as I know, I could end up living in a faraway land practicing Buddhism. Little did I know. So I moved to Grand Rapids to start my Irish dancing business, and I met my husband. We got married, and I started to kind of fade away from those blissful days of California. I got wrapped up in teaching and supporting my students through competition. And in the fall of 2019, we found out we were pregnant. And we were planning how to welcome this new life into our world. And then 5 months later, COVID-19 comes to the scene. And gave me a lot to reflect on. I think it gave us all a lot to reflect on when we first heard the news of everything shutting down. And I saw the silver lining of, I am going to have a little bit more time at home to celebrate with my family, to create this welcoming atmosphere for my daughter. And it really got me thinking, what can I do for this new life that's coming to be and live with us? And I had realized that I had been carrying the seeds of my parents' suffering for so long, as well as these seeds of suffering that I had formed throughout my own life. And I wanted to do the best I could to let those seeds die and instead create seeds of love and compassion for my daughter so she would not have to experience any unnecessary suffering. I really wanted to be able to teach her peace. And I think that was the point that I realized that I needed a more serious practice. And that's about the time that I started attending the temple. I had a copy of the Dhammapada sitting on my shelf for many, many years, and I had never taken the opportunity to read it. And the months leading up to her birth, every day I would sit out on our back porch and I would read a chapter out loud to her. And being at the temple this past year has really reminded me to realize the interbeing of all things. I can still hear the mountains saying to me, I am in charge of the universe. And the thing is, we all are. This undercurrent of connection, it's always there, even when we are wrapped up in the stories that we tell ourselves. Though we may not be in control of everything, we all contribute to the peace of the universe. And with that knowledge, we have the capabilities of creating a wonderfully compassionate and beautiful world as long as we are willing to. So how did I get here? It's a combination of peace and suffering. There is no suffering without peace, and there is no peace without suffering. I am very grateful to my suffering. It is the inspiration for liberation from the three poisons of delusion, greed, and hate. Suffering is natural. We are born into this world experiencing trauma, and many of us leave the same way. But it is what we do in between those two moments that pays homage to our ancestors, to our future generations, and to all beings. We all have a different way of arriving at Buddhism, and my heart is eternally grateful that I am here with all of you. And although my past brought me here, there is much time to be lived, lessons to be learned, suffering to endure, and peace to be had. Stay in charge of your universe to benefit all living beings. Before we begin a guided meditation, I would like to share a Buddhist's prayer for peace. May all beings everywhere, plagued with sufferings of body and mind, quickly be freed from their illnesses. May those frightened cease to be afraid, and may those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of befriending one another. May those who find themselves in trackless, fearless wilderness, the children, the aged, the unprotected, be guarded by beneficent celestials, and may they swiftly attain Buddhahood. So I am going to lead us through a guided meditation today. And even though we don't all have the same experiences, we do all have that Buddha nature within us. And I want to take this time to bring us back to the present moment and allow the distractions of life to fall away so you can come back to yourself. We're going to take some time in between each line to reflect on what is being said and the words. So take a deep breath and either repeat internally or out loud after me. I have arrived. I am home. In the here, in the now. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate, I dwell. I'm very grateful for your presence this morning. A lotus for you to be, a lotus for you, a Buddha to be. A big thank you to our tech team and for everyone's support through my first Dharma talk this morning. I would not be here without you. Are there any announcements?
Thank you, Z. That was absolutely wonderful. Congratulations. I'm Gail. I'm on the fundraising committee and also a board member. So I'll address the fundraising committee. That's the role I am today. I sit on that committee with Brian and Heather and Kate Ambo. We meet monthly and we've been talking a lot of reflective conversations as to why we are here, what brought us here, why we stay here. And 2 weeks ago, Heather had talked about her reason for being here was for community. And she eloquently outlined all of the things that the temple's involved in. Last week, Brian talked about his journey here at the temple has led him to continue his education and his commitment to Buddhism. And I'm really proud of him. My reason for coming here was service. I wanted to serve others. And I've been able to do that in a multitude of ways. Most recently, I've been involved in the neighborhood cleanup and outreach, and I adopted a small piece of very bad dirt near the driveway. But I have to tell you, that has been the greatest outreach, because I'd say 60% of the people that walk by comment, "Thank you for cleaning it up. It looks really great," or they just want to talk. And I think that is really Buddhism. All people want to be heard. So there's been lots of opportunity for me. That's why I'm here, service to others. Which leads me to financial issues. We are $500 per month deficit. And we've talked about that before, and we've discussed various strategies. I would ask all of you that are listening and are here, I have found 5 people in my life, friends, and I've asked them to sign up for Amazon Smile, which is on the newsletter at the very end. And I've bookmarked it. As we're coming into Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think this is going to be a really great opportunity. Also, for those of you who are able and willing to increase your donations. We're also looking for a board member that is good with numbers. We need a treasurer, and we'd also, with some transition in the fundraising committee, if there are 2 people out there, we're really a fun group. We meet on Fridays, we bring dinner, and it's really nice community. If 2 people would like to join us, we'd certainly welcome them. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Igye Su. I'm a senior teacher here at the Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple. And I wanted to say just a couple words about Venerable Amko. Scooch over. Okay. So you may have seen in the newsletter that Amko decided to resign and has left the temple. And I wanted to share that I think it was spring during a Dharma Council meeting that Amko shared that he was going to be taking a step back in the fall. He was going to be focusing on different things. And so that has happened in a different way than we thought would happen with his resignation. But I just want to say thank you to Amko. He's been a teacher here for many years. Most of you probably know him. And I would encourage you, if you saw the article in the newsletter on Friday, his personal email is there. Just reach out to him. I'm sure he would glad to be remain connected with us at the temple. So if you have any questions about Amko's departure, you can feel free to reach out to myself, Young Su, Hung Su as the senior teachers. And thank you so much.
And we will close with our gathas. For all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without numbers, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. Please feel free to join us afterwards for conversations and connection on Zoom. Thank you.